Hello everyone, welcome to the new session on Postgres DBA. And today we are going to discuss about one of the most important background process in Postgres, which is a postmaster process. In this video, we are going to discuss about what is the postmaster process and what are the key responsibilities of the postmaster process. Okay, so coming to the topic, so whenever we start the Postgres cluster, one of the top most process that will be started is a postmaster process. Okay, this process we also call it as a supervisor process. Okay, so postmaster process can also be called as a supervisor process. Why do we call it as a supervisor process? That we are going to discuss in the coming. Okay, so, as I said, like whenever we start the Postgres cluster, the Postmaster start process will be started in the first. Okay. So once it is started, what are the key responsibilities of the Postmaster process? Okay. So Postmaster process is responsible for starting up all other background processes in Postgres. Okay, it is responsible for starting up all other background processes in Postgres. And what is the other responsibilities? It is also responsible for restarting the background processes. Okay, it is also responsible for restarting the background processes if they die. Okay, process if they die. Okay, so Postgres process is responsible for restarting the background processes if they die, which means if okay, if you kill any of the other utility process other than Postmaster, the Postmaster will automatically detect it and it will try to restart the process. So what happens if we kill the Postmaster process itself? If you kill the Postmaster process itself, the entire Postgres cluster will go down. So and also postmaster process acts as a postmaster process acts as a listener. What does it mean by it is acting as a listener? So let's say you have a database which is installed in one of the server. Okay, so here you are a client and which you are trying to connect to the database. Okay, so whenever client sends a request to the server, postmaster accept the connection. Okay, so that is the reason why we call it postmaster as a acts as a listener. Upon the accepting the connection, what postmaster will do, it will perform a special type of authentication called host based authentication. What does it mean by host based authentication? So and what is the purpose of it, that we will be discussing it in a upcoming videos. Okay, so this the main purpose of this host based authentication is to provide the security. So how we are going to perform this host based authentication? In Postgres we have a configuration file called pg_hba.conf. Okay, using this file postmaster is going to perform a host based authentication. So whenever you perform authentication, what are the possible outcomes? One is the authentication is successful and the second one is authentication is failed. Okay, so what happens in case of these two scenarios that we are going to discuss now? Okay, if the authentication is successful, then what postmaster is going to do? Postmaster is going to create a separate process called postgres server process and hand over that request to the Postgres server process. Okay, this is the process which is responsible for doing the background work. Okay, so what happens if the connection is if the authentication is failed? If the authentication is failed, the connection will be refused and then the client will get a connection error message. And one more thing, right? So Postgres, a postmaster process also responsible for allocating the shared memory segment. So what does it mean by shared memory segment? So we have a shared buffers and we have a val buffers, right? So depending upon these values, whenever we start the Postgres cluster, postmaster is the process which is responsible for allocating these memory areas. So during the startup, and also postmaster process is responsible for performing a instance recovery. So whenever instance is crashed, the process which is responsible for instance recovery is the postmaster process. Okay, so I have prepared a small presentation on the postmaster process. I request you to go to this presentation, and so when if you have any doubts, you can ping me on WhatsApp to the mobile number which we have it in the slides. Okay, let me start the presentation. Okay, so whatever the discussion that we have gone so far, everything has been kept it in the presentation. Please go through that and ping me on WhatsApp whenever if you get any questions or doubts. So this is the pictorial representation that I have kept it in this PPT for the connection management. Thank you so much for watching this video, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any doubts. You can ping me on WhatsApp on the mobile number which is displaying here. Thank you so much.